Imagine an era defined by a single person. An age of steam, steel, and empire, all bearing the name of one woman, Queen Victoria. For 63 years, she sat on the throne of Great Britain, presiding over a period of change so dramatic it's hard to even comprehend. From the dawn of the Industrial Revolution to the peak of the British Empire, her reign witnessed the birth of the modern world. But who was the woman behind the crown? How did a young, inexperienced girl become the formidable matriarch of a global empire, the iconic widow of Windsor? Today, we journey back to the 19th century to uncover the life of Queen Victoria, a ruler whose personal story became the story of an age. When Victoria ascended to the throne in 1837, she was just 18 years old. Small in stature and relatively sheltered, many in the political establishment viewed her as a pawn, easy to manipulate. Little did they know, this young queen possessed a will of iron. In her early years, she had to navigate a complex political landscape dominated by powerful men who underestimated her. She quickly learned to assert her authority, but her most significant transformation came not from a political battle, but from a personal connection. In 1840, Victoria married her first cousin, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Theirs was a genuine love match, a partnership that would define not just her life, but the monarchy itself. Albert was more than just a husband. He was her closest advisor, her confidant, and her partner in ruling. He was intelligent, hard-working, and deeply invested in Britain's progress. He championed arts, science, and industry, most famously spearheading the Great Exhibition of 1851, held in the magnificent Crystal Palace. This event showcased Britain's industrial might to the world, and became a symbol of Victorian innovation and confidence. Together, Victoria and Albert cultivated an image of domestic bliss that profoundly influenced the nation. With their 9 children, they presented a picture of a stable, moral, and devoted family. This became the ideal for millions of their subjects. The concept of Victorian morality, with its emphasis on family values, public duty, and strict personal conduct, was modeled directly on the royal household. Victoria wasn't just a queen. She was a cultural icon, setting the standard for how a respectable family should live. This carefully crafted public image helped to stabilize the monarchy at a time when revolutions were toppling thrones across Europe. But this idyllic chapter came to a devastating end in 1861. Prince Albert died suddenly from typhoid fever at the age of just 42. Victoria was utterly shattered. Her grief was absolute and all-consuming. She wrote in her diary, "The poor fatherless baby of 8 months is now the utterly broken-hearted and crushed widow of 42. Her world had collapsed. From that moment on, she wore black, a color she would never abandon for the rest of her life. Victoria withdrew from public life, plunging herself into a state of deep, secluded mourning. For years, the Queen was an invisible presence, hidden away in her palaces at Windsor, Balmoral, or Osborne House. This prolonged absence was a political crisis. In an age of growing democratic sentiment, the public began to question the purpose of a monarch who was never seen. Republicanism, once a fringe idea, started to gain traction. The press dubbed her the Widow of Windsor, and not always in a sympathetic tone. Her ministers, particularly prime ministers like William Gladstone, struggled to coax her back into the public eye, often with little success. She stubbornly refused to open Parliament in person, a key constitutional duty, for 7 long years. So how did she recover? How did this grieving widow manage to not only save her throne, but elevate it to new heights? The answer lies in a combination of shrewd political maneuvering, both by her and for her hand, a masterful rebranding of her image. It was the conservative Prime Minister, Benjamin Disraeli, who perhaps understood her best. Unlike the formal and often lecturing Gladstone, Disraeli flattered Victoria, treated her as a woman as well as a queen, and understood her deep desire to honor Albert's memory. He cleverly linked her personal grief to the destiny of the nation and the empire. He saw that while she might resist the day-to-day drudgery of domestic politics, She had a grand vision for Britain's role in the world. He tapped into her imperial ambitions. The British Empire was expanding at a breathtaking pace during her reign, covering nearly a quarter of the globe. Disraeli's masterstroke was the Royal Titles Act of 1876, which officially declared Victoria Empress of India. This title thrilled her. It elevated her from a mere queen to a semi-mythical figure, a ruler on a global scale, the figurehead of a vast and powerful empire. This imperial identity became her new public persona. The image of the grieving widow was fused with that of the Great White Queen, the mother of her empire. She was no longer just the monarch of Great Britain. She was the ruler of hundreds of millions of people in colonies from Canada to Australia, from India to Africa. This powerful symbolism resonated deeply with the British public, who were swept up in the patriotic fervor of the late Victorian era. The isolated widow had transformed into a living symbol of British dominance and global power. Her golden and diamond jubilees, in 1887 and 1897, were spectacular. Outpourings of public affection and imperial pride celebrated across the world. The small, elderly woman in black had become the most famous and recognizable person on the planet. By the time of her death in 1901, the world was a vastly different place than it had been when she took the throne. Britain was more democratic, more industrial, and commanded a larger empire than ever before. Victoria had successfully navigated this sea of change, securing the future of her dynasty by adapting its role. She had shown that a monarch could remain relevant, even powerful, not by clinging to old political powers, but by embracing a new role as a national and imperial symbol. Queen Victoria's legacy is as complex and contradictory as the era named after her. She was a progressive who embraced technology and a conservative who resisted social change. She was a devoted wife who became an icon of perpetual widowhood. She was a constitutional monarch who fiercely guarded her personal influence over government. Her long life spanned an age of incredible progress and deep social inequality, of grand ambition and rigid moral codes. She wasn't just a witness to this era. She was its central character, a queen whose personal journey from young girl to empress defined the identity of a nation and an empire. Thanks for watching our exploration of Queen Victoria. If you're passionate about history and want to be part of creating videos like this, we're looking for volunteers to help with research and writing. Check out the About page on our channel for more details. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more stories about the figures who shaped our world. See you next time.